You good?
Yeah.
Sweet. Just give me a hand up, and I'll double clap just in case we have another power surge. And just like that, we're caught in the simulation.
Holy shit.
Welcome, brother.
That was crazy.
Before I introduce our guests, let's announce who's in the room. Starting to my left, camera right.
Fire.
But not just a producer. Very LA. Armand,
Okay.
thank you, brother.
Author, screenwriter, and co-producer of the show.
Wow.
You got that down, man. 4 episodes later, you've been on it.
Serious operation.
And I'm Conor Holway. And this is the Golden Hours podcast. Thank you for anyone who tunes in. And I'm joined by a Massachusetts native,
Yeah.
but more recently, last 5-6 years, LA, correct?
Correct.
Johan Lenox. And to be honest with you, bro, like I've never really had someone on the show who I've been like really excited about a full project.
Oh.
And I don't mean to sound like Zane Lowe, but the project is dope
Thanks a lot, man.
for sure.
I appreciate it. It's a lot of time and energy that went into it.
Can you just give a quick synopsis of who you are and what you do before we start?
Yes. I'm Johan Lenox. I grew up doing classical composing for orchestras around Boston and then around the country, and like in high school and then in college. And then I got into like Kanye West music basically and decided I wanted to try doing something in that world. And I've just been trying to figure out what my version of that sort of just maximalistic sound is, I guess, for the past few years. And along the way, I've produced for a bunch of different people and worked with Kanye and worked with a lot of big rap and pop type people. And I'm on tour right now opening for 070 Shake, who's also from that world. And we've done like 15 cities. I did 2 headline shows along the way and now got 4 nights in LA this week.
Now, in Massachusetts growing up, how do you like get into those like big symphonies? Were you just like playing at school and then Boston
Right.
Symphony Orchestra was like, hey, dude, you want to come and play
I
with us?
wish. I mean, that was sort of my dream at the time. Like, I definitely really wanted that to happen. I still would like that to happen. And I kind of think it will happen because of the way I'm doing it now is like a little bit, the sort of the roundabout way I'm going, I think makes sense for that. Which I can explain in depth if you want, but
Please.
yeah, but to answer your question, yeah, I mean, I grew up in Winchester, Massachusetts, and there was a place called the Winchester Community Music School, which was like 10 blocks from my house, which is just like you could take piano lessons, and they had a guy doing composing. So I initially was trying to do piano, and I didn't like being told what to play. I like making stuff up. So my parents were like trying to figure out how to help me. And they're like, well, maybe if you did like composing lessons or something like that's because I wanted to be like the next John Williams or something like that. I'm kind of going around in circles a little bit here. I'm trying to think. I mean, the very first thing that kind of happened was that my dad gifted me like the soundtrack to the 3rd Indiana Jones movie after we had really enjoyed the like Indiana Jones show at Disney World.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he was just like, I don't know, just saw it and was just like, I was obsessed
It's amazing
with the
ass
show.
score, though.
Yeah, I still is one of my favorite things. I mean, it's like film music is pretty different from classical music in a lot of ways, but in some ways it's similar. And so that got me into just wanting to write for orchestras. And I think that was kind of, so they were trying to help me and I got these lessons at the school and then quickly became too ambitious for what that school could help me with, although it was a good start. And then moved to New England Conservatory, which it's like in Boston. It's like the classical music.
Where is
that? It's on like Huntington and like
Okay, like right near Northeastern, kind of.
exactly. Yeah,
all
it's
the
like a
theaters and
block
shit,
from
yeah.
Northeastern. Yeah, and from Symphony Hall and all that. So yeah, St. Botolph Street for some reason I remember that pretty well. It's like the side street. And yeah, so I spent the last few years of high school going there on Saturdays while still doing public high school and just kind of doing my classical thing on the side, you know, and just becoming more and more ambitious. And then during the summers going to Tanglewood, which is in Western Massachusetts. And that was like another sort of just where I met a lot of these other students that also wanted to be like classical you
Is
know,
it just a summer camp, musical summer camp?
more or less. I mean, yeah, like it's sort of like selective, I guess. Like it's like I didn't get in the first time I applied, but like eventually I got in and kind of, you know, it's supposed to be for like the best, best
The
young
chosen
classical.
ones.
A little bit. I mean, it's kind of the vibe around all of like younger classical musicians, just kind of like you're the future of classical music, and it's just like I think they give you this sense that it's really that it's what you're doing really matters to the culture that we're in, and that, you know, you're like holding it down for the culture. And like I think the reality is that that is not the case, and this is a very niche interest that is like kind of has like a bit of an overblown sense of importance, I think, sometimes. But I really care about that music, and it's my goal with my life to like make that music a big part of our culture, because I want it to be what I thought it was going to be. And I just think a lot of things about it need to change for that to happen, and that's sort of how I ended up here, which is, you know, part of the path I'm trying to take to eventually
What
do
would
that.
the pinnacle be of someone who just wants to rise in the orchestral world?
Yeah.
Would it be the Pops, or like?
I've actually done stuff with the Boston Pops, but but no, I mean, they would say the Pops is kind of like that's sort of like the, I don't know what the polite way to say this is. It's kind of like the that's like classical light, kind of. It's not the real shit. You know what I mean? The real shit is like the Boston Symphony plays. It's the same orchestra more or less, but like during the year they play like the classics, like Mahler and Beethoven and all that shit, and they do play contemporary music as well by composers who, like my friend Ellen Reed was just there and had them premiere a piece of hers, and like basically they play your music and probably give you a check to write it, you know, hopefully a year before, and you get a year and you write it, and then you show up and take a big bow at the end, and that's pretty much it. And, you know, and then hopefully if it goes well, another orchestra plays it too. And I mean, you wouldn't know the names of any of these people, but sort of like the most like foremost people in that world are maybe like John Adams is this dude who they play a lot out here, and Philip Glass, you might know, maybe not so much. Philip Glass is sort of like more from the 70s, 80s, like kind of trippy, like minimalistic stuff. But, you know, he's like done some film score stuff too. But the classical people would say it's just like the film score stuff is like a side thing, which happens to pay way more, but it's not.
What's like the Super Bowl for like orchestral? Like, what's their big event?
That's a funny and good question. I mean, the best orchestras are like the Boston Symphony, the New York Philharmonic, I don't know. LA
Is the
Phil, I don't know.
Philharmonic what Whiplash was? Is that what that dude was trying out for?
He was trying to do jazz. The vibe is very similar, I think. I think jazz in some way is like even worse off in terms of just like if you kind of make it to the top of classical as a composer, like you actually can make decent money. I don't know that the same is true for jazz. I think all the way up it's just a fucking slog. You know? It's like, I think the audience is like even smaller. I mean, like classical music at least benefits from just like a large amount of like rich white people that like see it as like this sort of standard of culture that they're willing to like just throw money at to like feel cool, I guess.
But there's no
I don't
way,
know that jazz really has that to the same extent.
I won't speak for you, but there's no way like when we're old white people, we're gonna be like, dude, we gotta go hit the symphony.
I agree, but also I've met the people who are going to be that, and so it's like,
Okay.
yeah, it's like people who work in like finance and shit, like real like rich, just boring ass people. I've met like I've done some events where like the purpose of the thing was like we did Kanye music with an orchestra. And our goal was to reach kids with that. I can go into this further, but I'm saying,
Please, yeah.
but the orchestra that we, you know, the like organizations we did this with, they're interested in doing it because they can invite their like 29-year-old hedge fund manager kids who they're trying to cultivate as like future donors and stuff, and they'll come because it's like Kanye and stuff. But they also sort of like, you know what I mean? I don't know. So it's like I've
It's
actually
like a
met
rite of passage almost. Like
yeah, I mean, they're just kind of like, yeah, they're just turning into like boring old, especially in New York, but they exist in like or I mean, there's also, I would say, like people who used to play classical music and then end up going to work at a much more lucrative profession, but still care about classical. Like they sometimes help pay for it.
But
it's
it'll be like
an
a one-off
audience,
event, kind of, right?
What's up?
It would be like a one-off event once a year, like a huge collaborative orchestral.
I mean, they have a season. Like you can go to the LA Philharmonic, like they play, you know, it's probably like 40 concerts a year or something like that. And there's just, it's a lot of old people. It's not only old people, it's some kind of like weird art type leaning people. I mean, but yeah, it's definitely not like I have conversations with people about that and they're just kind of like, yeah, we're trying to reach like younger people, aka like in their 30s and 40s. And I'm just like, oh shit, okay, that's not good. So it's definitely skews very old. And I don't know. I mean, people always say like, yeah, eventually all those old people are going to die and there's not going to be an audience left. And like, I think that's been gradually happening for like 100 years, but it doesn't happen as fast as you think. Like somewhere along the line,
Well, what will
people
be
that turn
nostalgia?
40 and 50 and decide they want to start going to the shit. I don't really know how it works.
What will be nostalgia for like you and I when we're in a retirement home? I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
besides your own music, like
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously, I mean, I think about that a lot. I mean, in terms of like what songs are people still going to listen to like Eminem and shit and be like, those were the days, you know?
we get lit in the fucking retirement home.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people, I mean, you already kind of see it. I mean, like Led Zeppelin and shit, I think was pretty, just to pick a name at random, like that was pretty like aggressively, almost offensively outrageous music, I think, to some people. Some of it, maybe. I don't know.
And do they still have a legacy? Like,
Yeah, I think it's just listened to as just classic rock now. It just kind of doesn't sound that crazy to me. So maybe it may be that just like once you have a country where like even the oldest people in the country grew up on like Eminem and stuff. Yeah, you probably. I mean,
well, just
it
like
probably will
my
look quite a bit
grandparents
different.
love Frank Sinatra.
yeah.
Like similar for you, or
Yeah. I don't really know what my parents. They don't really like listen to music that much, but I think like there was some of that. I don't know how to answer that question. I mean, I don't really fucking know what they listen to, but I think like to an extent there is like, you know, I mean, they listen to like old Broadway scores and stuff like that. But I think either they aged into that or they just always liked that stuff. But I do think like there's like boomers who like listen to classic rock and that's what they listen to now, and that's music that was like edgy at the time, and now it's just kind of it's just sort of, you know. Like the Rolling Stones was like edgy and exciting at one point. Now it's just fucking, you know,
nothing.
What's important to the culture, but it's not. Yeah, it's seen as pretty safe, I think. You know, so.
No, what's crazy is we were talking about the Middle East with have you been to shows at the Middle East in Cambridge?
Yeah.
The Rolling Stones went through the
Yeah.
Middle East. Isn't that
They played it.
wild?
I went to school in Connecticut too, and there's this place called Toads that.
Toads,
yeah, and Toads
yeah,
has Rolling
Toads plays.
Stones posters on it too.
Really?
So, yeah, I mean it was a different time. I think you just kind of. You play really every market. You could Snoop Dogg. I saw Snoop Dogg at Toads twice.
Really?
Which is kind of crazy because he's like a huge artist, but it's like, I kind of wonder economically how that even makes sense for them to do that show. I mean, it's on the way from New York to Boston, so it's like, it's clearly not out of the way. But it's like
$10,000 for a little appearance.
Toads is like got to be at most like 500 cap. Yeah, I mean, is that really worth it? But I don't. Who
Guess
fucking knows?
We get the content, I guess, right?
Maybe.
Back then, who knows?
No, I'm saying I saw Snoop Dogg like at just like, you know, a few years ago. Like at
Oh,
Toads.
really?
Yeah, I'm not like, yeah, I mean, isn't that weird?
I think I drank my first Four Loko ever, and I went to Toads.
Yeah, that's great. I have a friend who's stocked up on Four Locos. He has like a couple, like he just still has a couple from the original recipe just in his closet, waiting for like a, you know, somebody's bachelor party or something.
Waiting to give someone a lethal dose.
Yeah.
Make you go blind.
I assume it gets harder as it ages, but no,
It ferments a little more, yeah.
Yeah, he's sick.
Now, did you always have the sauce growing up in terms of musical talent? Like, did you know this early on, or was it genetic?
Oh man, I'm like whatever. There's probably some genetic component to everything, but I tend to be more of the view that just like it just was many years of working to get there, and obviously I was blessed with the opportunity that my parents were able to be like, yo, you should get lessons at this, and here, we'll pay for it. I mean, that obviously makes a huge difference, and just the fact that we had a piano in our house, I think was a big, like, there was a few years at the beginning where I'm just messing around on the piano because it's there. I don't know if that happens.
But your parents didn't play instruments, or?
I mean, like in high school, but not really, no, they're not like in music. My brother played guitar a bit, but no, I mean, it was definitely like, they were just kind of like, what is this kid on? Definitely, for sure, you know? But it wasn't like immediate. I mean, it was definitely like, it was a few years of getting decent at piano just by ear and sort of by just teaching myself. And then there was a little bit of the lessons. Then there was the composition thing. And then I got really ambitious with the composing stuff and like that. But that also was like, you know, 5 years at least of just grinding before I kind of had made any headway. And then maybe 10 before it was like really good at it. And then at that point was kind of when I got into this and just took a huge left turn. It was just like, all right, fuck that, you know.
Are you producing though? Are you doing GarageBand around this time?
Not at all. No. Yeah, I never even touched. I never did really any. Maybe wrote a couple sort of like pop songs that were like kind of Billy Joel type shit, but never like. Yeah, I was never like making anything you could call current pop or hip hop music, and didn't really have any interest in it. Didn't listen to any music like that. I was just very like under a rock doing my classical shit and a bit of like Broadway, that type of stuff too. So yeah, it's basically like the story, which is true, but I've told it so many times, it just feels like a fucking story now, is that I was at somebody's house down the street from where I grew up, and tripping on acid, and heard My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy for the first time. and it was just like, oh shit. And then that really inspired me. And I listened to that album a lot for the next year or two. And that was the first time I ever actively listened to like a current album by anyone.
What song?
Except for classical music. Well, it was the whole album, but I mean, Runaway was like sort of the big one. Dark Fantasy at the beginning. The ones that are sort of the most symphonic, you know, Lost in the World, I think. Those three, I think, really.
I love
the interlude
New
before.
Dress. It's like my favorite.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people always cite that one. I think that's the one where Mike Dean has his like big guitar solo on it too, maybe. I like the whole album. I mean, but it was just it was more just the fact that the album was living on this kind of like symphonic scale, and like I think in particular Runaway, because of the way it starts with like a minute of just like unison piano whole notes, like the bell kind of tone, and then the way it ends with him just warbling autotune over like cellos for like 3 minutes at the end. It's like that aspect of it felt very like, this is someone who's thinking about music the same way I do from a classical perspective, which is just like, what is the full composition? What is the most interesting journey I can take people on musically, and not just like, what's the verse, what's the chorus, and that's it kind of. So I think that the fact that he was able to do music that I thought was pretty weird in the ways that I like music to be weird, and still reaching all these friends of mine and just normal people basically that aren't in a niche genre, made me feel like that would be a good path forward for everything I want to do, including eventually like doing just classical music at the scale that I want, which is like, I even said at the time, I was like, I feel like this dude could just do operas and people would show up, and that's because that's the relationship he has sort of set up with his fans.
That's essentially what his shows are.
And then
right
he
now.
did actually do that a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I think just it's Travis and a lot of artists, Kendrick, you know, at that level, just want to do this sort of like, it's beyond music. They want to do big, just spectacular, you know, transcendent entertainment, and I think that pretty much describes what like a symphonic concert is supposed to feel like, and what it probably did feel like when it was more popular. And now I'm just trying to figure out how I can kind of fix it and adjust the things that I don't think work about that format to make something that I think really could reach a lot of people and just have the impact that I want it to have.
Did he start doing the big shows during Dark Twisted Fantasy era, or was it later? Yeezus tour was crazy. Remember he showed up like Jesus and shit?
Yeah, that was probably the first one, I think, where it was just like big like theatrical set pieces and stuff, which I mean, again, I come out of like, I did like musical theater and stuff, like, so I've always been into like just big stage setups and stuff, and just like set design and just all encompassing productions. And I think opera does do that a bit pretty well, but I think it could be a lot harder. But yeah, I think that was maybe when the tour started doing that. But I mean, but even before that, he had like late orchestration, that thing where he was doing stuff with an orchestra. I think he was just always thinking like, what is the most insane maximalistic shit I can do? And I think it's important sometimes as an artist to, if you do have a vision that's that big, you have to kind of figure out how to communicate it even before there's an audience for it. So it's like on this tour, I have like 2 violin players with duck hunter masks, and they're in like a row. They're like set up next to each other, so it almost like evokes like, and they have music stands, so really you can start to see like, oh, if you had 6 more behind them, and then it looks the way it would look as an orchestra if I had the orchestra with me. But it's just like, I can afford that right now. But I think that I'm trying to just hint at that already with the live show, and just and the music videos played in order like a movie, like they tell a story that's continuous across the different videos, and just trying to think in a big scale way even before there's the money to really do that shit that I really
that's what was beautiful about the album to me, is it just felt streamlined all the way through, and like you broke it up. I really do feel like saying low. Like you broke it up with like those 2 voicemails. One was one your mom, one was
they're all my girlfriend.
Okay, they were your girlfriend.
Yeah.
She was like, you gotta have some sort of intent.
Yeah. There's a bunch of them. I mean, I think there's maybe like 5 or 6 on there. Some of them are really short. Like at the end to Get My Shit Together, she just says, what does she say at the end? It's something like, it just feels like a cop-out or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so that was a conscious choice.
Maybe it's, I don't know, aimless. I forget. There's a bunch of them. Yeah, so yeah, she has like, there's like 5 or 6. There's a couple really long ones towards the end. Actually, there's 3 really long ones. There's one after You Up, and then there's one after Don't Be a Loser, and there's one right before the end. And yeah, they just kind of tell a story of like, if you go back to my old EPs too, she's been on the last 3 EPs as well, and she's just always just stuff about like having to keep your head down and work and focus and just stay busy and like sort of keep your eyes on the goal, and just all very like like normal, like it's sort of a defense of like being a normal adult who like does normal stuff and like
What does
works
she
hard.
do?
She works at New Balance, which is another also from Boston, and
His
she's from
roommate
the same
used to
town
work
as
at
me.
New Balance.
Yeah, she's like, I think she was like a designer for a while, and now she's like risen up to be like a product manager who like oversees designers and shit, which is like, it's fucking great, and she seems super happy. And I get a lot of free sneakers, so that's nice. But
you're living two different lives, kind of.
yeah, a little bit. I mean, and she also has to get up really early because, she still has to basically be on East Coast time for that, even though she lives out here. So it's like that could mean that there's a meeting at like 9 a.m. their time, which is 6 a.m. here. And then sometimes she has to be on meetings with like China and Vietnam and stuff too. So like that,
So it's like 2 a.m. meetings, 3 a.m.
Yeah, occasionally. But yeah, I mean, overall, like the album is me sort of like complaining about not wanting to grow up, complaining about the world, feeling like it's in chaos, which it is, and just sort of feeling like I don't know what I'm doing with my life and not really knowing how to like be a person, basically. And so the feature vocals in a few instances respond to that, and I think her voice memos really respond to that by saying kind of the opposite, which is kind of like, sometimes it's some version of like, well, I don't really have the luxury to like dick around and wonder what I'm doing with my life. I just have to like do it, kind of. So that sometimes they're saying that, or sometimes it's just saying like, well, like good luck figuring it out. Like I'm over here just kind of grinding or doing my shit. And so I tried to just have it be like a conflict a little bit between, because I didn't want the whole album to just be like pure apathy or whatever. And I think the message of the album ends up being like, well, you got to try, or at least you got to try. And so that's what I think the voice memos are kind of saying. And yeah,
That shit was ill to me. Like, it felt like you like were giving an. Excuse my voice cracked.
Oh, okay.
Getting out of hand over here, man. Damn.
We've all been there.
Damn Celtics, brother. Ah! Gotta get some auto tune on this thing. It felt like it was an honest reflection of like what it feels like approaching 30s and like having like this idea of where you were gonna be at a certain point and not happening, but still going for it. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hopefully applicable to people of like kind of all ages, because I think even if you're like 20, I think that there's a sense of just like, what am I doing with my life sometimes, certainly if you're not in college and you're already working and you're just kind of, or if you just finish college, that's a big thing. I think that happens when people finish college. They're just immediately just like, all right, what the fuck? Like, what do I do?
I'm out of the system now. What the fuck?
But you're right. It definitely increases throughout your 20s. And I think, but I also just kind of aware of the phenomenon. Like I met a dude who's like 45 or something recently who just like plays Halo on live streams all day. And that's his job. And I was kind of like,
he's making bread doing that.
He's doing okay. I mean, yeah, I don't remember if he's like rich off it, but he was definitely like, but it was, and I'm not like saying I don't think that's a valid path. I think like any path is a valid path, but certainly like I don't think we used to live in a world where like 40-year-olds played Halo for a living. You know what I mean? So it's like I just think like that we live in a world where it's just really like a lot less certainty and a lot less like obvious benchmarks of just like what adulthood is supposed to look like, and it can be confusing when your friend is like 23 and married or has a kid
Working at an accounting firm.
Yeah, and then your other friend is like 30 and doesn't seem to be doing anything. It's just like there's just we're not all like marching in lockstep towards this like American dream, like suburbia, whatever thing that I think, not that that existed for everyone ever, but
but you and I grew up in environments where that was like
it
very
seemed
much the
like
path.
that was exactly. It's a good point. So it's yeah, exactly. And I kind of say that on like Hitting Different and on Get My Shit Together as well, that like it felt like we knew what, like we were told a certain thing, I think, and then it's just the realization is like there kind of isn't really anything, and it's like maybe they didn't know what they were talking about, maybe growing up always just sucks, or maybe the world's like on fire, and I think the conclusion is it's probably somewhere in the middle of all three. But
I think I felt growing up that like I really thought that my parents were like really spotless people and they had made no mistakes. Then I get to this age, I'm like, wow, they've been fucking up forever.
Yeah, I think that's like literally in the album. A bunch of the lyrics I think speak to that, hopefully, and I agree. And I mean, I think I also think it like goes all the way up. Like I remember reading a story about like just the first day in the Obama White House and like the people who worked for him just being like, yeah, we don't like know where the light switches are yet. It's just, it's the first day, you know what I mean? Like, not really a big deal. It was just sort of trying to capture that feeling of just kind of like, even then you get there, you're the president and you're still just like, okay, what am I doing? Like, all right, okay, cool. I think I got that. I don't really know what the fuck that is, but hopefully we'll figure it out and you just do your best. And that, I don't think there's any point you'll ever get to where you like know what's happening. And if it is, you probably are like a bit plateauing. So it's good to not know what the fuck's going on. And I think, but you're right. It's definitely unnerving at the same time.
So what age did you shift out here from Boston?
Like 23, something like that, 24.
Okay.
Yeah,
so were you just feeling stagnant?
Oh, well, I mean, I went to college in Connecticut and I lived in New York for like a year.
Where'd you go?
I went to Yale.
Okay, word.
Which is why I was at Toads.
Okay. Yeah, it was like Quinnipiac was right there too, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
That was like one of the two.
Those are the,
but all right, you're a smart
Yale
guy.
And Quinnipiac. Well, I had a lot of friends that went to Quinnipiac too. But yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of good pizza, great hamburgers.
New Haven.
I like New Haven. And then my girlfriend actually, we grew up together in Winchester, but like didn't know each other super well. We just like were different years and shit. And
she's younger or older?
She's 2 years younger than me. And then we met up again because she had just moved to New Haven and I was leaving. And she was just like, oh, do you know anything good in New Haven? Like, you used to live there, right? Like, how you been? Whatever.
Don't go to Toads.
Yeah, right. I don't think she needed to be told that, but, I wonder if she ever did go to Toads.
Don't ask.
Yeah.
You don't need to know, man.
I don't know, yeah. I think she was, you ever go to Bar Pizza? That was the other spot that they kind of had, like, a club night, but they also would have, like, indie bands and stuff. I think she was just trying to find, like, cool shows to go to.
Bar Pizza.
And it's just like, that place is fantastic. Great pizza.
Really?
Fantastic.
Where do you go out here for pizza?
That's a great question. I think that there's a couple. I'm not the definitive expert on this, but I think if you want,
what was that place I met you at? This place was kind of good, no bullshit.
Yeah, Prime. I think is what it's called, and they have one on Fairfax. Prime is decent, sort of like East Coast style pizza. It's a little like they're trying to do the like by the slice pizza experience, but like they can't. Like a real by the slice pizza experience, you just ask for a slice and they hand you one like 30 seconds later at most, and they don't know how to do that, and no one in LA seems to know how to do that. So I think that's the thing that's missing from that, versus like New York or something.
Well, no, it's so weird. I got out here and people are like, yo, do you like your pizza Boston style? I'm like, bro, I've never heard of that shit in my life.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Probably. I mean, all New England style pizza, Connecticut pizza, New York, Boston, that's the real shit. But yeah, so to quickly answer that, I do think like there's a lot of really good sit-down restaurants in LA that do pizza like that is as good as anything you'll get anywhere in the country.
Really?
It's just not really a New York style. It's more of this like puffy. I think they would call it like a Neapolitan style, just like really trying to replicate the actual, Italian shit, but super puffy with all those like sort of dots of like char on the, So
That
like a
gas.
couple places, yeah. So a couple places I really like, Ronin in West Hollywood. Mozza, I think is solid. Everyone always swears by Mozza. It's fine. Osteria La Buca, and then Bestia, which I think is one of the best restaurants in LA. Not
Bestia.
Yeah, in downtown, just best, and then IA Bestia. I don't know.
Bestia.
It's not a very controversial opinion. Like, the last time I was there, like Gordon Ramsay was walking out of the restaurant.
Okay.
It's just a good restaurant. But it's not like insanely expensive though. It's just like a good Italian, modern kind of, American, whatever. Yeah. So those are good pizza for sit down. And then for like quick over the counter, there's a place called, I think it's called Joe's in Hollywood that is like that shit's pretty much the shit that you're going to get on the East Coast in my opinion. But
You've been there? Joe's?
But again, they won't give you a slice just within 30 seconds of ordering, which is just like insane to me for a place that does that kind of fast style of pizza. But
So how long does it take? Like a couple minutes?
yeah, if you knew, yeah, like 5 or 10, I mean, you're just waiting like it was, it's just like, well, what's the fucking point then? Just,
Pizza by the slice. But it's not
It's
by the
annoying.
slice.
But if you're just ordering a bunch of pizzas for a party, I feel like that place is pretty good. But I could go on and on. I know I don't know a lot, but I care a lot about food. My girlfriend knows more than I do about.
What's your favorite genre of food?
We just like sort of like weird, edgy, Americanized takes on trends. So I mean, Bestia is sort of the Italian version of that.
Give me like a reference of like what that looks like. Is that like Asian fusion? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that's what they would have called. I mean, stuff like that. But it's just better. I don't know. Just like I'd say like these days there's sort of like a combination of like trying to really honor like sort of really weird esoteric aspects of the cuisine they're bringing in, but then still recombine them in a new way, So it's not just like, I don't know, we like read a book about Asian food for 5 minutes and then just like mashed it up and like, here you go. It's like, no, like this is like this thing that only happens in this one region of like, Taiwan or whatever, and it is really popular, and we're doing our own version of it, but we've slightly elevated, or not elevated, that's almost like condescending, but we've changed it a bit, with a lot of knowledge. So it's like this combination of like incredible ingredients, this sort of like rare attention to detail, and then usually like, just some kind of like weird twist on it, I would say. But I go even deeper on mixed like cocktails and stuff. I go crazy on cocktails. Yeah. So
let me hear.
Oh, Jesus. I mean, I don't even know where to start, but that's like, I have like a home bar with like 60
So I'm going on a date with
shit.
a young lady tonight. If I want to impress her, what should I hit her with?
I mean, I could just list off restaurants. You won't be able to get a reservation though, but you already have a reservation, right?
Yeah, I already got a reservation.
Where are you going?
It's called the Beach House in Marina.
Yeah, I think I've been there. That's cool. Do you live on the west side?
Yeah, I live in Culver.
Makes sense. I don't really know what's going on in Venice or Marina Del Rey that much, but
That's where he lives.
Yeah.
He's down by the beaches.
There's a few good spots there. I think the really good shit is like mostly either in West Hollywood or in like the arts district around downtown LA if you really want. Just like, and I'm not like someone who's like, I don't like to go to places that are like unnecessarily expensive. I'm really like, they're not cheap, but these are places that are just like good and reasonably priced for what they are that I'm usually on.
I'm looking for the type of place that's like, it looks dope, but it's like mad cheap.
I think the best move with that shit is usually just going to be like just ethnic food that is like, it's like there's like a Thai town in like East Hollywood. Those places are not expensive, but those are the best Thai food you'll get in America.
Really?
You know what I mean? Yeah, and like all of K-Town, pretty much same thing.
What do you get in K-Town? Like Korean barbecue?
I love Korean barbecue, but there's like other shit. You can just like weird places where you can just get only like seafood or only soups or whatever, and like, you just gotta dig. I don't know.
Are you big? Oh God,
it's okay, man.
Dude, I'm really going through it, man.
Don't worry about it.
Are you a big Anthony Bourdain fan?
Yeah. I mean, I think he was, and he didn't like invent that, but definitely like there's been a handful of like food critics who've like made their bones like by finding like just like shit that like is already perfect and really good and just not very well appreciated outside of the like ethnic community.
I just don't think there's a better reality show than his show ever.
I've never like really watched it through, but I've just watched like tons of YouTube clips and stuff.
Kitchen Confidential. You ever read it?
No. I mean, I watched all his interviews on it, so I know what all the highlights were about how they use like a stick of butter in every meal and everything. Yeah.
He just has like stories about.
I surprisingly don't like read at all.
I'm with you on that.
It's like I find it very hard to concentrate. I guess a book like that I'd probably be able to read, but I don't know.
Well, I thought that was mad interesting. You said when you were producing your album, you were listening to any rap. You were like,
did I say that?
You were like, yo, wasn't listening to anything. I was listening to only orchestral scores.
No, I think that was more just growing up. That was my experience. I mean, after the Dark Twisted Fantasy thing, I now listen to quite a bit of hip hop and pop music.
I mean, when you were producing your album.
No.
Okay.
Oh, well, I don't know. I'm trying to remember where that was. I mean, it's definitely true that like I also don't like I think maybe what I was saying was that like I listen to music and I like stay up on it as like a job, but I don't really like go home after the session and like put on the new Kendrick album or something, because it's just like after 10 or 12 hours of just listening to like heavy drums and music and stuff, it's just like not usually a break for me to listen to more of that. So it is true that sometimes if I'm really listening to music for entertainment, which is rare, like I really just don't put on music almost ever because I'm like trying to listen to music,
So how do you unplug? You just like close your eyes? Play video games or like
get drunk, make cocktails. I'm really into cocktails. I can't emphasize this enough. I go to the theme parks. I'm huge into theme parks.
Really?
I'm obsessed with roller coasters. I know like
No
that
way.
that and cocktails I have like really, really deep obsessive knowledges about. Those are my two hobbies.
All right, quiz.
Sure.
Biggest roller coaster in New England.
In New England? That's a good question. No
It's
one's ever
easy.
referred to that. I mean, it's probably just Superman at Six Flags New England,
But
right?
it's no longer
It
Superman.
used to be Bizarre, but now they changed it back to Superman. It's now
Oh, really?
Superman the Ride, yeah.
Is
And they
it purple
changed the
or red?
restraints and they painted it back. This is something I don't like about Six Flags. Like, you have an iconic ride like Superman Ride of Steel, and you're just like, I don't know, now it's Bizarro. Just like,
They
it's
just needed a rebrand.
the disrespect to this fucking iconic attraction, and just be like, people won't notice. It's a new ride.
when
Fuck
you're
you.
on that drop,
I
you're
hate
like,
that shit.
Oh God,
I fucking love that ride. That was my first really big roller coaster.
All right,
Fantastic.
what's the number 2 in Six Flags?
At New England, height, quality wise or height wise?
Height wise? No, not height wise. Quality. Like, what's the second most popular?
Unquestionable. Well, I think most of the nerds would actually say Superman is now number 2, and the number 1 is this ride called Wicked Cyclone, which is like a retrack of the classic, what was it called? The Riverside Cyclone originally. It was a wooden roller coaster.
Okay.
And they put like new track on it. Now it goes upside down. It's just fucking absolute chaos, mayhem.
I was gonna say Batman, the double loop.
Yeah, the Batman's fine. Batman, the Dark Knight. You talking about the one with the like, it's kind of purple. Yeah.
Double loop.
Yeah. I think that's probably the second tallest. I'm guessing that's like 10 feet taller than the Cyclone. I don't really know.
That's fucking fascinating. You love roller coasters.
Oh, I know a lot about, and I got like all these friends in like the roller coaster nerd community. Like they're all the like YouTubers and shit. And we like a bunch of them came to my show in New York actually.
So did you love Canopy Lake growing up?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Now I would say it doesn't really have the juice. Yeah, but yeah, I mean that was the closest shit to where I grew up for sure. Yeah, we went all the time.
Turkish Twist.
Yeah, I actually never rode that thing. I've never been on one of those Gravitron rides at the carnival either. Just I can't do this spinning.
Someone threw up in the Turkish Twist
Constantly.
while it was going.
Oh yeah, no, that happens like 3 times a day.
So all the yak is,
yeah.
Oh God.
Not my favorite. I don't like the spinning. I like roller coasters. I like big ass drops and hills and like feeling like I'm flying and shit. I don't like to spin around like a fucking washing machine.
So goated roller coaster.
There's one called El Toro at Six Flags in New Jersey. That's just like there's only like 5 or 6 roller coasters that like if you just ask any of these fucking roller coaster nerds what their favorite roller coaster is, like there's only 5 or 6 answers you'll get. Like it's just kind of there's just 5 or 6 that everyone agrees is the best, and that's one of them.
Toro, and what are the others?
There's one called Fury 325 at Carowinds in North Carolina. I've never been on it. Really want to.
What's it called?
Fury 325.
Fury.
It's 325 feet tall.
Whoa.
Yeah. There's one called Steel Vengeance at Cedar Point, which is like the capital of roller coasters in the world. Basically, this is in Ohio.
Is there a Six Flags out here?
Yeah, Six Flags Magic Mountain.
How's that?
It's good.
Yeah.
I go a lot. I'll probably be there next week.
Really?
Yeah.
That's dope. Dude.
Yeah.
You have a season pass out there? No way. This is awesome.
Is it
what
awesome?
the fuck?
Yeah, I keep that thing on me.
Oh shit, gold plus. So what? You skip the lines?
My strategy is generally just to go on weekdays at early in the morning and no one's fucking there. But yeah.
No way. So what does that do for you? Just fucking get your adrenaline bump and you're out?
Yeah, but it's also, yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's also like you said, like, how do I blow off steam and shit? It's just like listening to more rap music is not really the way to like not remind me of work. You feel me?
Yeah, I hear you.
It's like I like it, but it's just not going to be a break. So this is a break.
It helps you be more effective.
Yeah. And making cocktails.
Dope.
Yeah.
I
mean, I don't know if it helps me be more effective. It just helps me like fucking, survive, I guess.
I hear you.
But yeah.
Do you ever do a skydive or anything like that?
I've
Base jump?
skydove twice.
Really?
I'd do it again.
How was that?
The first one, the second time we went, I think 3 times higher up than we did on the first one.
Where was this?
First one was in New Jersey, I think Summit, New Jersey or something. And then the second one was in New Zealand. The first time was really cool, but there's like, have you done it?
I haven't.
There's like kind of like a couple different experiences you can have. One version of it would be like, it's so cloudy that basically you don't see anything until the parachute goes up. And then, so you're basically just flying through clouds. And it's just like, it's almost like the fact that you're going down is almost not even relevant to the experience. It just feels like it's just completely divorced from any reality. Yeah, which is sick. So that's what happened to me on the first time. The second time, it was a totally clear day. And the entire time you're just staring at the ground as it like approaches. Yeah. Both cool, different experiences. I don't know which one I'd pick. I got to do it again. The second one we went higher up too, which was cool. So that was pretty crazy. And then the other kind of issue as a dude is that you are wearing a harness that like if the shit just isn't right, you could get some
chafing.
Well, it could be like pulling against your shit in a weird way, and like that really would just kill the whole experience for you, which is what happened the second time.
Really?
I mean, it was fun, but it was just like
the whole way, you're like,
well, it's
man.
like the dive is super fast and you're weightless, I guess. So that part was good, but then it's really like then the parachute pops. I don't know, that's the term, but whatever. There's a thing. They basically just fucking do it for you. You're strapped to a guy, you know that, right? That's like the first several rides. It
was a man.
You're just always strapped to a guy, and he does basically everything, so you don't really have to do anything. But yeah, but yeah, then at some point, it's like a crazy rush of sound and air and all that, and then at some point the parachute opens, and then it's just dead silence, and you're not moving at all, and then you just kind of float to earth, and that takes like 15 minutes, maybe 20. So, but that's the part where you're like hanging by your balls.
And it just kills.
Well, the first time I had it, just like the shit was just lined up right and it was fine. The second time it just wasn't in a great position.
So are you like screaming on the way down?
It wasn't that bad. It was just a little bit like, I mean, you can't really adjust it because you have nothing to push your leg. You know what I mean?
What was a more uncomfortable?
So I don't know how everyone else deals with that, but I feel like it's an underrated aspect of it, the fact that like that's an issue, you know?
Well, yeah, they didn't discuss that in the training.
I don't really know. I just maybe it's like unusual. I just
You
got
have a
kinda
sour
unlucky.
taste in your mouth about this experience.
It wasn't. Yeah, well, I was sad because I like fucking. It was sick, and we went up super fucking high, and the dive was amazing. And I was kind of like that. Kind of killed it out a little bit.
Yeah, that's
Nothing against the country of New Zealand though.
traumatizing pain. Now,
No, it wasn't like it wasn't like fucking ripping. I'm just saying it was like it was on the side, but it was just on the side in a way that I wouldn't have ideally had it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just a little bit, just not comfortable, and then eventually kind of like, okay, let's fucking get out of here.
What was a more uncomfortable pain, that or like the rush on Bizarro when you're dropping? Like
No, but that's not pain at all. That's fucking pure joy.
no,
to me.
but you feel it in your nuts. You're like, oh god.
It feels like fucking pure joy to me.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, initially, I think the first few times I did it probably was like a little bit. That's not pain. It's sort of just like, I don't know, that sort of pit in your stomach. But I don't really get it anymore. But I've never been at Carowinds and ridden Fury 325, 325-foot roller coaster than North Carolina.
Yeah.
But apparently that's one that I'll still get that feeling on because it's just that drop just goes forever.
Do you have a show out there coming up?
We didn't have one. I mean, the only park we were really able to hit on this tour was Great Adventure, which I've already been to, but it was good to get back there. I met up with a bunch of guys who call themselves the Coaster Idiots.
What do you mean?
That's just what they call it. They have
They're
like a
just a
YouTube
gang?
channel. Yeah, they're cool. Yeah, great guys. So, and they came to my show. So we met up with them and we did that. And I dragged my like tour crew with me, and they were just like, for the first half, they were like, yeah, it was pretty fun. And the second half, they're like, dude, you ride a lot of roller coasters.
That
You
is
just get on and just like get right back on. You know what I mean? So yeah, that was fun. And then there was a couple areas where we could have maybe hit another park if if everyone had been as hard going as I was. But I was trying to respect the fact that I'm, dragging these people on tour with me. So that was the only park we hit. Next time.
You'd probably know the answer to this. How do they actually get the pieces for the roller coaster into the park and then build it? They just like have 18-wheel trucks. They bring like the beams
Yeah.
and shit, or
Yeah.
that's how
They're building a new one right now at Magic Mountain. Yeah, they usually ship. I'd say like each one of those trucks usually they have like maybe 4 pieces of track or 4 supports or whatever.
So they have a ton.
I mean,
of
there's a
trucks.
standard length to these trucks and a standard width, and you just design the layout of the track so that it can be broken up in pieces that size. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, tons of them. Yeah, and then they come in and they kind of all arrive, and they usually just sit in the parking lot for a month or two, and gradually they just kind of like lift one piece onto a truck, drive it into the park.
And
They
what's
have
the
a
what's the
crane.
turnaround time on getting one of those done?
I think the total process. These are great questions, man. I think that you're just dead serious.
Well, dude, I've never heard about a roller coaster enthusiast. This is sick.
Yeah. No, yeah. Well, now you have. You probably know them, and you just don't know
Yeah,
they
they're
are.
quiet about it.
I mean, I usually think of it as like a 2-year thing. Like the actual construction process is usually like, depending on the ride, is probably like 3 to 6 months. I'd say is like most of the work is being done.
Okay.
Some of the bigger ones, some maybe 9 months or a year, but like this ride pretty much went up in, well, I guess it's been about 6 months. Started pouring concrete, I think like December or some shit. And then they probably spent like a year designing it and preparing, and shit. And then that's it. And then they'll test it for a month or two after. And so yeah, ends up being like a beginning to end, usually about 2 years.
Can I make an assumption?
Mm.
Were you a fan of Roller Coaster Tycoon growing
I
up?
have it on my phone right now.
Oh my god, really?
Yeah.
What about
Oh.
Zoo Tycoon?
I never did that. Zoo Tycoon?
Yeah.
No, it
Build a zoo.
doesn't have roller coasters. Well, maybe they did, but not enough.
Well, it's like the same
I know.
builder, same
But
simulator.
my interest was a purely roller coaster based interest.
Yes, that's the difference between me and you. What I would do is I would
Yeah.
get all the animals in an enclosure,
Yeah.
really pack that zoo up, then just
Yeah.
destroy the fences and let those things
That's
run.
awesome. There was people did that in Roller Coaster Tycoon too. You can like have like a ride that like is positioned over water and then the guests all drown and shit, or you get a ride that crashes and explodes in a flame. Like it's-
Now everyone's wondering why our fucking generation is so fucked up.
I didn't
man.
do that. I mean occasionally I did, but for the most part I was trying to build great theme parks.
Great experience.
I was actually I was more interested in trying to replicate the real life parks. That was more my interest, was kind
Really?
of just copying it exactly, but in the game.
Now, where's the biggest in the world? Is it like Dubai?
The fastest in the world, I fucking forget. There's 2 that are. I forget which one is the fastest one. There's one in like it's either Dubai or Abu
Some
Dhabi.
shit like that, yeah.
It's like a launch that's just got the fastest. And then there's one that I think that's the fastest. I think it's called like it's like a Ferrari themed park. I
Well,
forget.
You guys mind looking that up? Thank you, man.
I think it's in Abu Dhabi. It's all white. I think it's Ferrari themed. It's not. There's another ride in the same park. I think called Flying Aces. I just forget what the name of this one is. fastest roller coaster in the world. The tallest is in New Jersey. It's King de Ka.
Oh yeah, I've heard of
It
that.
wasn't open the other day when we went. Formula Rossa, yeah.
Where is that?
Because the Rossa is red. It's like
Abu Dhabi.
it's like red because Ferrari, like they have like a red thing.
Okay, where?
Yeah. I got it right. And I think it's like a 140, right? Is that what it goes up to? 149. That's pretty fast.
For you, are water parks fun too, or
I think about. I mean, I don't really go to them.
water country?
I remember the ads and the song.
Water country, have
water,
some fun.
Yeah.
Actually, I think you got it. I think it's two water
It does
countries.
two water countries. That's fine though. Never went. Did I go? It was always more about the rides. I mean, there's just something about the sort of like the water that everybody's been fucking in and the
So
fucking
nasty,
like
bro.
kid piss and shit. It's not really my
I just
vibe.
had a nice Band-Aid floating in my mouth one time. I was like, oh god.
No, yeah. So not really. I'm good on those.
So out here,
Disgusting.
so like out here, if you can't get your rocks off doing any of that roller coaster, what else are you doing? You go on hikes and stuff?
No, I make cocktails with my friends and or I go to cocktail bars and I'm like a connoisseur of nice fucking cocktails and I have like a home bar with like 65 bottles in it and I'll be like mixing shit.
Oh shit.
Get on Zoom with another friend and be like, yo, I got this new thing, and he gets it too, and then we're like, wow, it tastes pretty good with this. Not so good with this. What if we did this? Oh shit, that's crazy. And just do this for like 4 hours.
I haven't seen that on your TikTok ever. Or do you put that type of
I
stuff
used to
up?
do a bit of it. You can, if you look at my YouTube and go back, there's a lot of that shit. But yeah, not as much. I mean, I mentioned it in the mini sort of film about my life, but yeah, I mean, it shows up on my IG stories a decent amount. But yeah, it is funny. Like I tweet a lot about a lot of different things.
I know,
and
it's
nothing engages worse than that shit. No one knows what the fuck I'm talking about. There's zero overlap in interest between the people who know about that shit and the people that follow me. So I just I just keep it to myself, I guess.
If you're having a conversation with someone, what's one drink that would tip you off that they're actually pretty knowledgeable when it comes to cocktails?
Great question. I mean, there's a range. I actually made a whole system for this of like levels of interest in cocktails, 1 through 4. I got really, me and my friend kind of came up with it, but it was mostly me. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Is it? And so, yeah, I mean, there's different levels. You want to hear about it?
Please.
How long does this go for, by the way?
Probably got like 8 minutes left.
Oh, geez. All right, I'll be quick then. So the level 1 is basically just like they don't do cocktails. This is like kind of like every club and most people. It's like you can get liquor and you can mix like liquor with like orange juice or ginger ale, but that's not a cocktail. There's just no concept of like mixing different types of alcohol together. Okay, that's the level 1. That's most people. Level 2 is like basically they know drinks that exist on a list. That's like these are the drinks you're supposed to know. A Manhattan, a martini,
Cosmo.
a Cosmo, and there's like the lemon drop and like, they have like recipes and you actually have to have the right shit to make them, but they're basically just making this shit according to a recipe. And there's just a list of drinks that everyone knows exists. And that's what we're after is just like, I'm able to order something that they've heard. That's like an airport bar that they'll be able to hit that
Airport
mark,
bar, level 2.
because they know someone's going to ask for a certain thing. 99 times out of 100, they'll have it because there's not that many things people ask for, but they are cocktails.
Got it. 3.
And if you have an opinion on a martini,
Where's
like,
the Moscow Mule in this? Is that like a
that
2?
would be like a 2, yeah.
So I'm like probably 2.
That's cool. And like a martini, like if you're, there's like different levels. Like I don't really care about the levels. Like I've gotten so fucking deep with this that I'm now just like over it. But it's like, yeah, I would say like if you have an opinion about how your martini is made, then I would say like you're probably in there somewhere,
As a 3.
as the 2. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's a 3?
I thought you'd be like the high level 2. At the low level 2, you'd be like getting a fucking, Cosmo. No
Okay.
offense to people that get Cosmos. Okay, so then the 3 is like, that's where you're now like the restaurant or bar, like, or the person, like basically they're making stuff that like hasn't actually ever been made before, but it's always usually pretty much based off of stuff from the 2. It's just like they've like infused their bourbon with like bacon, or they like added like some fucking other weird shit that like sounds interesting but is like more or less like a cosmetic addition to the level 2. But they're trying. They want
Like gold flakes on it or some shit like that.
yeah, stuff like that. Like presentation stuff where the thing's on fire. Like that's, you start to see that more at the level 3 level, I'd say. And like there'd also be stuff like there's more ingredients you'd see. Like a level 3 bar will have chartreuse, which is an ingredient from France that I like a lot.
What is
an
it?
airport bar won't have chartreuse. It's like, it's made by monks and it's extremely just herbal and extremely alcoholic, and it just tastes, it's like very like grassy and bright.
Oh, it's a
and
type
sort
of
of like,
booze.
it's a liqueur technically, yeah. But yeah, which is a type of booze, yeah. So that shit, that goes into some other classics that I just wouldn't expect the level 2 bar to have. It'd be like a level 3, it's like, it's just a little weirder. There's no classic cocktail that you'd really expect anyone to know that has that in it, but it is a fucking great ingredient, and a lot of more obscure drinks use it.
And then what's God level?
God level is like you're mixing shit that where I cannot point to how this is just a ripoff of something else that I've already seen before. That you're fundamentally trying to rethink. You're not just like, well, they've been making Manhattans for 100 years, and I thought I'd put a little twist on it. It's like, no, we are just completely rethinking like what these ingredients can do together. I think that the level 4 bars tend to focus more on. This is the most pretentious thing I think I've ever said. Just this entire rant, but I've never said it, so here we are. The level 4 bar, I think that they would really focus on like knowledge of ingredients that are like not that hard to find. Like a good liquor store will have all the shit you would need to make, and it's really just about like there's something called Pisco. It's like a brandy from Peru. There's a classic called the Pisco Sour. A level 2 bar should be able to make that. Certainly level 3, but no one ever makes anything else with it. Why? So I'm looking for like who's figured out what that shit actually can do. And isn't just like, well, we made a Pisco Sour, but we added like this one thing. It's like, no. What if it was like Pisco and like fucking like rum from Martinique with a blend, and then like a little bit of cognac, and then like a little
aged cognac.
Yeah, sure. But I'm honestly even more impressed when they use cheap shit to do because the point is about creativity. It's like how much are you really just thinking about what can you do with this stuff, and like the most impressive shit. And like me and my friends get with it with the level 4 shit that I think of is like if you can actually then come up with drinks that you can get at the airport bar that will just like fucking blow their mind and yours using only the shit that they have there, because that means you're really thinking about what this shit can do. You're not like reliant on like, well, they don't have the like buttermilk whatever blah blah blah. It's like they don't have the fucking infused this. It's like, well, great, like even better if you can make something great with just the shit they have at an airport bar.
Where in LA would you go to get a level 4 God level cocktail?
There's not that many. I mean, me and my girlfriend like run around town and try to find these places. And what happens sometimes is there's a lot of restaurants and bars that have a really like, to me, like a level 4 menu, but like then you have the menu and like you don't really need to go back for a year until they change the menu because you've tasted the shit and like unless it's like mind blowing,
But have you had an experience where you showed up and you were like,
yeah,
what was that?
Yeah. But what I'm saying is like, so our ideal experience is we like go to a place where the bartender is someone who is just trying to get weird with us on the spot, and ideally you go on a night when it's not so busy that they're like not just completely overwhelmed with just getting orders out, and we're kind of we get a couple things off the menu, and then we're like, hey, you want it, and they call it like dealer's choice sometimes, but just like you want what if you just make something with that and you figure out the rest, and like try to send them on a really fucking weird route to just get something you never tasted before, and the two places that we've had the best luck with that haven't closed, because a lot of these places go out of business, especially in LA, are a restaurant called Thunderbolt on the east side, which just everything they do is always fucking innovative and amazing, and they're super chill, and it's not that well known. They have great food too.
Thunderbolt.
It's in Echo Park, yeah. And then, but it's not like, they're not like pretentious, like, the shit is just very, very, very good. They know what the fuck they're doing, but they're not, they're not like making a big show of it. But I'm saying even the menu there, if you just go there and try anything off the menu, and they change it pretty frequently, like, that shit's really good. And then there's another spot on the west side, sort of West Hollywood, called Blue Collar, which doesn't even have a menu, and it's one of those places where you just have to tell them what you want, and they'll just give it to you. And most people go in there and just like order a margarita, and they just like don't know that they can even get weird, but they can get very weird. And if you go in there and start pulling into shit, yeah. So those are my two favorites: Thunderbolt and Blue Collar.
Okay, so
but again, these are like, I mean, I should almost be recommending like level 3 bars, because it's like there's no point in like I'm talking about an experience that isn't even really interesting unless you know what you're looking for, kind of thing.
I'm just saying, like, so if I wanted to like blow
Impress
someone's
this girl.
socks off, well, not even this girl, but what is it like? What was Pisces? What was the name of it?
The ingredient I was talking about?
No, you had chartreuse.
Yeah, I was talking about Pisco.
Pisco.
It looks like Pisco.
Okay, so Pisco is like a keyword.
It's an ingredient.
It's
It's just a fucking, you just want to ask for stuff?
I'm just saying it sounds sick. I say, yo,
but I'm just
you got
saying,
a
like,
Pisco?
yeah, sure. I'm just saying, like, I've just gotten so deep with this that, like, I'm now doing stuff where, like, the only purpose of this, and this is why I'm not going to publish this list of my, it's like my standards for what I look for. But, like, my experience at the level 4 level is just, like, I'm always going to be having, like, a pretty deep conversation with this bartender about what's going on in this drink and shit.
Have you found like
You're not going to get anywhere by being like, can I get, you can get a Pisco Sour. It's a classic drink. You should get it.
Have you found like the Goliath to your David in the cocktail world? Someone who's like, I know exactly what you're talking about, man.
Yeah, well, what I didn't get into is there's this thing called Amaro, which is an ingredient. It's like bitter Italian liqueurs, but they can come from other places too. And this is the thing that I'm most obsessed with. And I've had more than 200 of these, and I keep a spreadsheet of all the ones I've had and what they tasted like and shit.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so that's the shit that I'm like probably the single thing I'm most knowledgeable about. And I've met there's a couple bars that just cater only to fans of this shit. There's one in Chicago called Billy Sunday. There's one in New York called Amor y Amargo. And they have people there that go as hard as I do. Sometimes harder, or sometimes it's like harder and different. Like we have, I know some stuff they don't. They know some stuff I don't, and that's the best.
Cocktail Illuminati.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah.
We do have to wrap up, but is there anything you want to promo? I can cut a clip up pretty easily. Definitely the album. Talk about the album. I really enjoyed the album. If you're looking for like a cohesive project, which is really hard to find nowadays in mainstream music, Johan's album definitely did that for me. It was like a streamline all the way through. There's a consistent message all the way through, and there's definitely excerpts of his life where you're like, damn, I'm kind of starting to understand that dude.
Thank you.
Sure.
My album, What Do You Want to Be When You Grow Up? It's just the first letter of each of those words is the title. What Do You Want to Be When You Grow Up? Is out now, featuring 070 Shake, Lancey Foe, Aunt Clemens, Mr. Hudson, Rumor, and more.
And your girlfriend.
And my girlfriend and the Brooklyn Youth Choir or Chorus singing on the first song. And I'm going to be putting out more stuff soon, but just run that album up. Let me know what you think and come see me if you're in LA. I know this probably won't be up this week anyway. So I'll probably have just finished this run of shows with 070 Shake in LA, but I'm going to be hopefully doing more touring soon. So follow me and come see a show.
And definitely follow him on Twitter.
Sure.
Classic Twitter.
Tweet. I'd be tweeting.
All right. This is how we start and end the show. I'm going to say it once, but I think you're going to get it down. Every guest does it. So you have to say, hi, your name, and this is my golden hour. Directly after no break. Hi, your name, and that was my golden hour.
Okay.
You got it?
Yeah.
All right, brethren.
Hi, I'm Johan Lenox, and this is my golden hour. Hi, I'm Johan Lenox, and that was my golden hour.
Well executed.
Thank you.
Boom.
Professional.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, dude, thank you. We went really into the week.